Supreme Risings. Wake the fuck up. Waketh the fuck up. Wake it up, 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 wake it up. Wake it up, 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 wake it up. Wake it all the way 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 up. Let's wake all the way up. Let's wake up. Let's get ourselves ready. Let's get ourselves wake up. As I'm sitting here. Getting ourselves together. Preparing myself for another week of getting to play with the energy. As we get ourselves ready for another week of playing with the energy. Getting ourselves ready. Oh, we in week 2 of class. We in week 2. What's up, fam? We in week 2. We're in week 2 of Chakra and Shadow in the class. My mental, like my mentees, I just finished the calls from my mentorship program. We in the building. Y'all know over the last couple of weeks, while we letting everything fill up, last couple of weeks we've been getting into really deep into, like, for example, last week we got into the aspects of understanding how your behavior creates that environment that you get in. Your patterns populate that environment, and the habitual habits sustain that environment. Week before that, we got real deep. This is going to be an ongoing thing. We got into it in the aspects with class last week. If you have missed, as we letting it fill up, if you missed the introduction in week 1, you are okay. We are in week 2. But every week we do a recap of the week before. So if you get in, let's use an example. Let's say you come in, you inbox me, you want to get in tomorrow's class, 8:15 to whenever. If you want to get into that class and you feel like you got a little behind because now you in week 2, we can set up, we can set up one-on-one to get you caught up on week 1 in that intro. Also, being in that class, you're not going to miss anything because we're always getting back into it. This is the aspect of practical application. And it led me to, I was watching a podcast on YouTube. I might go back later and find the link. And I forgot the name of it, but it got, if you're familiar with B. Simone and Megan Wood, whatever her name is, but they had the 85 South show. If you're not familiar with 85 South show, they had DC Young Fly, Chico Bean, and Carlos Miller on there. And they were talking about vulnerability. And at one point, one segment in there, remember, the spirit always going to lead you to what you need to watch. One piece of the part of the segment, one of the hostesses, she had said what Carlos said to her in the car was, you don't want consistency. You want things to be consistently in your favor or considerably in your favor. And you know me, every time I get information, whenever you sitting in that space, you get that information and it gives you that aha, that's when it's time to sit with it. And it made me think about, and then I made another post in the aspects, And it was further confirmation because somebody said something about one of the comment that was under it. They said the aspects about being equally yoked. They were talking about no one knows what being equally yoked is. And I sat there and I was like, yeah, no one really know what being equally yoked is. And it made me really think about it. Cause remember, we always go into the aspects of energy and motion. We always talking about energetics. The energetics of the energy and motion, cause that's that baseline to everything that builds out in those layers. Something from the class. And it made me really sit and think about being evenly yoked. It made me really think about the aspects of the process of being equally yoked and what equally yoked is. And it made me go further down the rabbit hole, per se. It made me go further down the rabbit hole, as I always do. And then I started thinking about consistency. It made me think about consistency. And then I went on my run after I did my meditation, went on my run. I got really deep in the aspects of consistency and I was really excited. I was really excited about my progress in my workouts because as I was getting ready, as we letting it fill up, what's up? As I was getting ready to start my run, I have my, like, if you're familiar with sauna cream, it's like the heat cream, the hot cream, the sauna sticks or the heat cream. It's a cream that you put onto, it's a cream that you rub onto the places where you're going to put your sauna. Like I wear sauna shorts. Now I just got my sauna shorts. I got my sauna shorts and my sauna vest. So I'll rub it on my thigh. I'll rub it on my thighs, rub my thighs down, rub the core down, rub the chest down. I rub the arms down. I rub down right here in the I rub the arms down. And then you put on my sauna vest and my sauna equipment, my sauna gear. Then I put my other stuff on top of that. And then it helps with extracting the water and turning your heat up in your body. And I was sitting there rubbing my thigh. And I was noticing the firmness of my quads. I was noticing the firmness of my quads. I was like, yo, my quads they getting more tone throughout my workouts and my runs. And it made me think it led into the aspects, it helped me with the aspects of consistency versus the consideration or the considerable favor. It made me think about the aspects of purpose versus predestination, like the difference between purpose and predestination. It made me really sit with the aspects of temperament versus tolerance or tolerating some things. And then it led me in the aspect of what are you evenly yoked to? When you ask yourself the question, we always think about evenly yoked. The first thing that comes to your mind is relationship. The relationship, that romantic relationship, that partner relationship. But as I always say, and I love to say, what you do is what you do in all shapes and forms. How you compartmentalize it is how you compartmentalize it, but understanding the aspects of you creating that aspect versus your purpose versus predestination. Purpose versus predestination. If you're moving inside of like the aspects of your purpose, when I tell everybody, people always ask like, yo, what is my purpose? I need to know my purpose. I need to know my purpose. You don't need to, you're already in your purpose. Let's just start with that. You're already in your purpose. It is what level you are at within the aspects of cultivating your foundation, your standards, your structure, your stability, your sustaining in the aspects of your purpose. The only way that you can actually understand your purpose is to look at what you have, the predestination or that predisposition that you have become accustomed to. See, because until I understood the aspects of my predestination, that predisposition that I subscribed to, I didn't understand that I didn't really like consistency. Over the last couple of weeks, I've sat with it long before I brought it to the forefront. I had to really understand a lot of times I wasn't confident A lot of times you weren't confident. Your predisposition or that predestination complex that you get stuck in, it keeps you from having to discover your confidence, because confidence got to be felt. It keeps you from discovering sitting in vulnerability, because vulnerability has to be felt. In order to tap into your discipline, in order to step into that space of discipline with oneself, you have to come into that innate intimacy with your feeling. That's how you understand the aspects of vulnerability, being open, being honest with yourself, moving inside of that space. But if I'm stuck most of the times with ourselves, when we think about being evenly yoked, you think about being evenly yoked, that predisposition keeps you in what you are and what you aren't, what you do and what you don't do, what you have and what you don't have. All of it keeps you distracted from who you are. See, remember, we talked about this last week. Only in the aspects of learning who you are, you got to sit with the feeling. You have to sit with the aspects of that feeling. You have to understand the aspects with your feeling. Are you moving? Because then staying in that state of that predisposition keeps you inside of a space of a lot of the things you're doing is from a passive narrative. So everything inside of your space, building out in your example, because of your behaviors create the emulation, simulation, the illusion of your environment. Your patterns populate that environment. Your habitual habits sustain that environment. So everything that goes into your space, into this reality that you have created, everything that you interact with inside of your reality is based on the behavior, the pattern, or the habit. Or the habit. It can be a mix of, it's a nice little mix of your behavior, your pattern, and your habit. So if I'm not consistent, let's start with consistency versus considerable favor. One of my favorite analogy when I say this, it takes a great amount of discipline to do what you want. It takes a great deal of discipline to do what you truly want and desire. It takes little to no discipline. It just takes staying within the focus of a habitual habit, staying within the focus of a habitual pattern, staying within the habitual behaviors that you've deemed in the aspects with yourself to do what you can. Use an example of predisposition. With predisposition, for myself, when I sat with predisposition, my job, for example, when I was in that space, when I was working that 9 to 5, the predisposition of my job was to sustain my behaviors of not feeling things of me, what I was calling being a man. So my patterns in that predisposition, it kept me within a state of tolerating a lot of things. It kept me in a state of tolerating a lot of things in order for me to stay within a state of imposing. It kept me in a state of imposing. So naturally, anything that came into my environment I was interacting with, whether it be idea, person, place, or thing, it always came in a space of imposing. So now that's the core. But now the next level, that's the acknowledgement phase. Remember, I always go through this when we working together, we go through that acknowledgement. Now it's the acceptance. Now my acceptance is understanding that I have been passively, that means stay in a state of constant reaction with my actions inside of my space of the thought process of anything that I provided, anything that I put under provision, anything that I put under my protection, anything that I put under my knowledge and my whatever I was saying or doing was based on imposing. So now you think about the verbiage of imposing. and you're going into that space. It's like when you first came online in your aspects of your consciousness, you couldn't wait to go tell somebody. But it was similar to the same way when you got that new job, or you got the new car, or you got in a new relationship, or whatever it may have been. You only can go to spaces to where you can impose. You only can go to spaces where you understand comfort being reaction, where you are tolerated inside of that space, because it has to match your predisposition. It has to match the predisposition. So 9 times out of 10, every time that you do something, that's why it always seems like it's imposing. Think about the feeling that you have when you go into a space. I didn't want to impose. I didn't want to impose. I didn't want to make nobody feel out of feel a certain type of way. I didn't want to make any waves. All of these aspects all of this verbiage that you're using is feeding your predisposition about what you are. It's keeping you away from the spaces of sitting with the actual feeling of who you are, how you actually feel, how you actually think, how you actually process information. So if I'm stuck with the inside of that type of state, anything that I do is going to go through that is that limiting myself of not understanding how I process things, the personal effects, the actual intimate feeling of me processing information. I'm never going to do it based on who I am. You see it, you see it all the time. I remember going through the space of like, this is the first time in me actually working out to where I have been consistent in my workout. I've been consistent in my workout. Consistent. If you were rocking with me ever since, if you knew about last year and I gave everybody, I was like, I went through my shit. I had to go through my surgery the end of the year. So I had to cancel some classes and cancel some things out. But I didn't start working out again until March. I've been working out consistently since March. I've been getting up at 4 a.m., my meditation, getting myself ready, getting myself together, hitting the pavement, hitting my workouts consistently since March of this year. Consistently. This is the first time that I've done it consistently. But the reason why is what I sat with in the aspects of why I've been doing it consistently. The first thing I had to sit with was, why couldn't I do this before? This is when you ask yourself honest questions. Why couldn't I do this before? Because I wasn't I wasn't in consistency. I didn't like consistency. It was the aspect of a considerable favor. It was the considerable favor. It was the predisposition of feeding of, if I work out, if I'm going to go do my workouts, if I'm eating a certain way, I'm doing my workouts, then I'm going to get a certain type of result. I'm going to get this certain result. The same results the same results that you chase, whether it be the relationship, whether it be whatever level of relationship, the job, whatever ideal that you're chasing, it's always the same energetics. See, this is the thing that stops a lot of us in that process, is not understanding that it's always the same energetics. So everything that comes into this is why I tell you, every time you do something, it works. You're just not accustomed to actually the feeling of the result of something actually happening. You're used to so many you're used to the precursor. You're used to something, we're used to externally, then it comes into the within. We're not used to going from within to go out. So you're always used to by the time you make a move, it's already happened. It's already on the news. It's already on the news. It's already on YouTube. It's already on your Facebook feed. It's already on your story. It's already on your Snapchat. It's already there. So now you're reacting to it. So now your behavior kicks in. Your natural behavior kicks in. That passive aggressive behavior kicks in. That you only doing it when you get upset. You only want to go to the gym when you upset. You only thinking about actually working on yourself at the end of a relationship. You're only thinking about, oh, I'm going to start my business, do my company and start actually trying to work for myself only when your job doesn't give you what you need. Whenever your considerable favor is not met. Or when your considerable favor is met, but the result that you wanted is not what you got, that's when you stop. So when I think about me working out, all of the times of me working out before this point were always based on was always based on me being able to impose. I wasn't confident. It was always based on me trying to impose. Because because I look at the dynamics of the environment in which I was in. Me working out only could be validated in a space where other motherfuckers weren't working out. Me working out only could be validated in a space where other people weren't working out. All the information that I was gathering, all the stuff that I was doing, only could be validated in spaces, only can work in my considerable favor in spaces where, of course, they couldn't say anything. They could give me the aha moment. They can give me that validation that I needed. Oh yeah, you've been working out? Okay, cool. So then I could go through the intellect. I can go through the intellectual aspects and I can share the intellectual aspects. Yeah, I'm on this page. Now I'm doing 3 sets of this and I can go through that process. When you go to every aspect, when you go into your job, you go into that space because it's considerable favor. Of course, I can go to my job and be like, yo, if everybody did this, and this, everybody was moving like me or everybody was thinking like me, then yo, we wouldn't have to have these problems. Of course, because everything I said fit my considerable favor. So of course, when it was time, when I wasn't getting the result that I wanted or whether or not I was getting the result that I wanted, whenever the result came up, I always could react to it. So of course I can be upset at my job and everybody wanting to go home. People want to call out and go home because they came to work drunk. Of course I could do that. It worked because now guess what I get to do? I get to stay a little bit later at work. I get to make a couple more hours. Yeah, I'm making money. But at the core of that was how I learned how to make money. See, the core, I've talked about this before. The core of how I define money was from a space of lack, was from a space of scarcity. So, of course, the only spaces in where my skill set worked was in spaces of scarcity. The only places where my skill set worked were in places of scarcity and lack. Since I'm reacting and moving in spaces of scarcity and lack, I always look like I am hot, like I'm the hot shit. I look like I'm the best. The things that are normal to me, I can't even, but here's the thing. The things that are normal, the things that are my basics, I cannot expand past that point because the foundation was fractured. So of course your job ain't shit. Of course your job wasn't shit. Of course every relationship, this person couldn't do this. But you got to really think about it. Is it based on consistency or was it based on that considerable favor? Was it based on actual temperament? That means the state of me pouring into myself, the actual process of me pouring into myself, in the understanding of taking in this lesson and taking it, sitting with that feeling, sitting with that emotion, sitting inside of that space, or is it based on tolerating? Because you'll tolerate a lot. You'll tolerate a lot of shit at your job because they give you a paycheck. You'll tolerate a lot of shit in a relationship because you've minimized what you're getting in that space is in considerable favor to a skill set that you have. But if you shift, now we're going to shift over and we'll come back. But if I'm shifting into my purpose, I'm no longer looking based on a predisposition. I'm moving into my purpose. I'm acknowledging my purpose. I'm accepting my purpose. I'm accepting that I've always been inside and the aspects of my purpose, but I have to do the work cultivating this space for my purpose. Then I can actually understand the process of even building the foundation to build that structure, which becomes my missions that are in alignment with my purpose. So now I've always gotten everything that I got, everything that was necessary. I got it. Got everything. I got an abundance of everything that I needed in those spaces. See, this is the hard part of aspect when we're going through that internal work. You have to be able to accept, accepting on both sides. On one side of that aspect, people did some things to you, but on the other side of that same coin, you did things to others because of your predisposition, because you seek considerable favor. You seek the considerable favor to your behavior. You seek the considerable behavior to your patterns. You seek the considerable favor to what would be tolerated based on what you were able to provide, based on what you were able to nurture, based on the distraction, based on the dysfunction that you brought into the space. Because your predisposition always leaves you in a state of dysfunction. Your purpose always leaves you in a state of that chaos. See, when you're shifting into the aspects of your purpose, chaos, you understand chaos is necessary. You understand chaos is necessary because now it allows you the practical applications of your routine or your rituals, your repetition in aspects to create order in that space, create order in aspects of that space. As opposed to the predisposition is always the aspect of dysfunction and disorder. You want to stay in this state of disruption. Because why would you want to stay in a state of disrupting things? Because it fits a skill set. Your skill set, that behavior, that pattern fits disrupting things. So the same disruption that you felt, that you have not sat with, you've only secondhand experienced it at most, that disruption in your life, that you say, oh, that's disrupting my peace. No. Peace has to be cultivated. Neutrality doesn't have to be cultivated. Neutrality is you staying stuck within the space of either or. See, I can't be around that type of shit over there. I can't be around that over there because it's like, use an example, consistency versus considerable favor. You go to a friend's house. You'll always go to that friend's house when it was considered to be favorable. Whenever you wanted to have a conversation, whenever you wanted to have a dumping session, whenever you wanted to be right, Whenever you wanted to be right, whenever you wanted to be whenever you wanted your pattern, that be your irrational behavior to be validated, whenever you wanted your pattern of disassociation to be validated, that they served a purpose. But the moment that that person said, hey, heard, we'll be starting reading this in a little bit. Cool. The moment that that person told you, hey, yo, you need to sit down. The moment that that person told you, hey, you need to sit down with yourself. Maybe you need to sit down. Maybe you need to take a couple of weeks off. Maybe you really need to take some time to start soul searching with yourself. See, the moment that they said that, it triggered you. It triggered in you imposing. It triggered the imposing. It triggered you feeling like you were being imposed upon. You feel what I'm saying? It triggered you feeling like you were being imposed upon. You know why? Because your immediate verbiage after that was, nah, sis, you know what I've been through. Nah, bro, you know what I've been through. You know the shit that I've been going through, man. You know it's been hard out here for me, man, out here. So what you mean I got to take some da-da-da? So you telling me that I'm wrong? You telling me that I'm not? You telling me that I'm wrong? You telling me that I'm not it? You telling me that I'm the wrong one? See, now you started the impulsive reaction to the thoughts to save your predisposition. To save your predisposition inside of that space. You started moving inside of that. That's what you're used to moving in. Your behavior, your pattern, your habits, they fit that. So now that it's not in considerable favor for you, now you go seek something that's going to put you in a considerable favor. Now you go look for somebody that you can go have that conversation with that is going to help you further distract yourself from sitting with it so you can stay within that state of dysfunction. So you can stay with the results of disorder. You're not used to actually you don't know how to step away from things. You do not know your fear, that wound of feeling like you weren't heard when you were younger is what you're reacting on. See, you have never sat with that feeling. You've never sat with that feeling of feeling like you were never heard. That rejection wound. You've never sat with that. You've had secondhand experience to it, but you've never sat with that feeling. You've never sat with it long enough. You feel what I'm saying? You haven't sat with it. You haven't allowed it to actually come to the surface. You haven't allowed it to come to the surface. So you know you haven't allowed it to come to the surface because there's nothing inside of your life that is consistent in you being able to process that information. There's nothing inside of your space that is consistent in you being able to sit with actually processing that information. There's things inside of your space that are in considerable favor for you to be able to react to it, for you to be able to escape from it, but there's nothing consistent inside of your space for where you have been able to sit with that. You haven't sat with the feeling. So you're always evenly yoked to things that are considerably inside of your favor. You're always considerably yoked to things that tolerate that behavior because you're doing it based. This is once again, the rejection comes to the surface, but at the root is scarcity. At the root is lack. What is it a lack of? Your lack of value comes to the surface as a fear of rejection. So that fear of rejection, now you created a behavior. So soon every time that you seem to be accepted for your skill set, what you can do, what you have, what you don't do, what you do, what you're willing to do, you loving hard, you a fighter. Now that pattern comes up, that whatever fits that pattern, because you go to work, because you Because you're always in environments of external conflict. So you're always on high alert. So your habitual habit comes in to every time that something happens inside of an environment that gives you a reason to stand up. Like, yo, this is why I'm a man. This is why I'm a woman. This is why I'm this. This is why I stand 10 toes down for motherfuckers. You stuck within that predisposition. So everything you get is going to be evenly yoked to that. None of it will be, all of it is evenly yoked to who you are, or the lack of the understanding of who you are. Everybody that comes into your space is the experience of the lack of who you are. Is the experience of the lack of value within inside of yourself. How you value you. So everybody becomes that reflection of that said aspect for you. Everybody becomes that fragment of that for you. Sitting in that space, evenly yoked. But remember, you only can go so high with that. That only goes so high. That's why when it comes into that space of neutrality, that's neutrality in the physical form, that's where it's stagnant. That's where it's stagnant. That's where it's complacency. That's where neutrality, neutrality is the space of the savior. Neutrality is the space of the savior. You feel what I'm saying? You want somebody to save you from you want somebody to save you from the process. You want somebody to save you or bail you out so you can continue using the same skill set. That's why, let's give the example of verbiage. You sit inside of that space. I've seen it so many times on the comments under so many posts, and you look at the comments and they're always saying, like, for example, for when we'll use women first, we'll go ladies first, then we'll do fellas. Ladies will be like, yo, I was there for him when he was strung out on drugs and he didn't have no money. He had no place to stay. I gave him a place to stay. I fed him. I did everything a woman should do. And he still went and fucked around on me. You were trying to save him. You didn't aid him at all. You didn't aid him. You were trying to save him. Because in saving him, it validated your skill set. You were a passive aggressive, sitting in that passive aggressive state. One of the things I had to sit with myself was, nigga, I am the definition of a bully. I am the definition of because I'm always imposing. I'm trying to impose my skill set and attach it to others because it sounds so easy. Because you can say, well, if you do this, and this, your life would be straight. Your life would get better. But nowhere inside of your life is that consistency. Because this is how you know nothing in your life is consistent with it. Because everything in your life based on the considerable favor. Your skill set is attached. Remember, I always talk about this all the time. Your accolades and your attributes are attached to your trauma. Your attributes and accolades were attached to your trauma. So, of course, your skill set fits in that space because it forces that person to have to tolerate what you do, what you say, how you act in order to get something. They never can come up out of that space. Slide to the other side with fellas. Slide to the other side with the fellas. With us. You go into that space, I can guarantee that most of the relationships that you got into was based on proving yourself. Was based on getting things you're trying to get things that you don't give to yourself. You're trying to have somebody do things and say things. This is when we get men always talk about, yo, man, I can't vent to no chick because people going to weaponize it against me. The only time something can be weaponized against you is when you haven't dealt with it. Only time it can be weaponized against you. You acknowledged it, but you haven't accepted it. You haven't accepted the feelings behind that. You have not assessed the behaviors and the patterns that you have created that go behind that. So all you're really looking for or seeking is to be evenly yoked with someone that has the emotional markers and the behaviors that sync with it. That's the other side. Because it fits the predisposition. What's your purpose? When I asked myself for the first time, what was my purpose? And it hurt because I sat with, what is my purpose? Of course, the easy answers came up. To be a man, to take care of people and be security and be all these things for people, be all I can be for everybody else. Fuck my happiness. Fuck what I need. Fuck my value. Fuck me sitting with myself. Of course. So that's predisposition. Why? Because it was considerable favor. Why? Because it aligned with considerable favor. It didn't align with consistency. See, your purpose aligns with consistency. Your purpose aligns with consistency because it's based in aspects of discipline. See, I can say what my purpose is now because I can go through my mission statement. My first mission as sitting as an ever evolving divine masculine is to establish and lead through example, to provide through example, to provide example and to provide example and to give the provision and secure the spaces of said examples by me creating those spaces for myself first. My second mission, that leads into my second mission. How? Because everything that you're doing is going to be the precursor to the temperament for yourself. For me, my second mission as a holistic therapist, as a spiritual therapist, is to create the secure spaces to understand the inner, to go through the aspects of the inner workings of self and sitting with self. To give you the unbiased, impartial, non-partial aspects to the aspects of the space to help you actually evolve. What's my next mission? My mission as an advisor is to become the advisory, or to the advisor and mentor is to provide the space of learning, practical application of the aspects of learning those energetics, those energies in motion, those emotions in those processes in order for you to expand and build out your space. Those are my missions. So every day when I wake up, now that I'm in the aspects of my purpose, now I can move in my edge. Because now it takes, remember as I said, it takes a lot of discipline to do what you want, to do what you truly desire, than to do what you can. 1 second. Ooh. Ooh, we have returned. But to do what you can, to actually do it, to do what you actually desire. So now when you're creating that space, those disciplines that you now create, your standards, your behaviors, those now create the natural separation from certain things. Remember I said everything inside. This is why when you actually take the actual aspect of how you used to interact with certain things, you're pushing past the point of saying, instead of always having to say it, yo, I'm doing this because it is. I don't watch TV. I don't eat this. You don't have to say any of those things unless you're going through the aspects of actually being able to simplify and synthesize and teach those things. So I don't have to say I don't have to say every other day, I don't watch TV because TV is full of lies. I don't have to do any of that. The natural processing of me building out a new secure space, the TV sits in the room with me. I don't have the way that I used to interact with it. I don't even feel it anymore. That feeling isn't even there. I've sat with that feeling of why I would watch TV. I've sat with that feeling of why I watch TV, and it led me to why I was always on Facebook. It led me why I was always on YouTube. It led me to why I was always on this, and why it takes you all the way down to the root. It takes you all the way down to the root. But you have to sit with it and allow yourself to go through the process. But I was so used to and so accustomed to being able to react. You get so used to being able to react. You get so used to being able to use that considerable favor. You get so used to using that considerable favor because it always serves you. It gives you exactly what you need at that time. You want to be angry? You got 792 different ways to be angry. You want to be horny? You have 792 ways why to be horny. You feel what I'm saying? Because all the information that you take in based on that predisposition, and I'm going to do Sasha's reading right after we do this, after I say this point, you haven't evolved past that. You're still stuck with it. This is how we get stuck. You're still locked within that physical aspect of what it gives you. You have not learned to take it outside of that space. You have not learned to take it outside of your comfort zone because you know the results inside of your comfort zone. You know that you can sit there and you can sit there and use that argument with your girl to go run off and go do some bullshit. You know you can use that argument with that. You know you can use that dude becoming overly obsessive as a way for you to escape because you do not have your aspect of that respect for yourself. Remember, respect is unconditional. Respect is an unconditional aspect. Respect is an unconditional aspect. Love is the space in which you operate in that respect. Or you can operate within the fear zone with respect. That trust or that capacity and ability to be able to, you know what? I shouldn't have did that. I wasn't listening to myself. How many times have you had the voice in your head? How many times you had that voice go through in your head over and over and over again, but you ain't used to sitting with it? You're not used to sitting with that voice. You're not used to sitting with it long enough. Because every time that you sit with it, it makes you anxious or you feel resentment. So you don't even know how to map it out. One of the biggest things that I work with my clients is learning how to map it out. The zoning. That's what we went through. That's what we talked about in week 1 in the class, was the aspect of learning how to zone. The first thing you got to do before you even start any grounding, before you start any root work, before you start any grounding, before you even get to that phase, you have to zone out how you've already been tethering to things. You have to zone out how you've been securing your behavior. You gotta sit with how you've been securing your behavior in the first place. How you've been securing those patterns. How you've always been securing them. You've always been in the security of your negative or your dismissive behavior. You've always been in the security of your dissociative patterns, your escape patterns. You've always been in the security of your habitual habits saving you. You've always been in those things. You've always moved. You've always been within the shame or shaming of your behavior. The shame corresponds to your behavior of being distant or being dissociative or being overly, because you've been living in the extremes, or being overly attentive. Being so overly attentive to somebody's needs to where you impose on their will. You impose on their natural will to grow. You imposing on their natural will to actually give you information. The verbiage becomes, if you love me, you would. A real man would do this. I need a strong man. I need a weak man can handle my attitude when I'm in a, why would you want someone to handle, you want someone to handle your inability to regulate your emotions. Your inability to identify and regulate your emotions. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for somebody that is willing to bypass or overlook your inability to sit with logical reasoning because you provide them something. As long as you're providing something. As long as you are in that space, to that security inside of that space. You feel what I'm saying? That's the predisposition. So when you're looking at what you equally yoked to, and I'm going to do Sasha's reading in a little bit. Sasha's present. I just saw it pop up. Sitting in the space because the spirit has said, yo, do that reading. That reading is going to lead into more. But you're used to that aspect of that space. The first card. Before I even pull the card, Sasha, I want you to take a nice deep breath. Take a nice deep breath for me and count down from 10. No, count down from 13. Slowly. Allow your body to relax. And when you get to 13, let that out slowly. Relax in it. Because then I'm going to pull that first card. Let me know when you're ready. First card comes off as the Magician. First card I just pulled for you was the Magician card. The Magician represents infinite in the aspects when I'm looking at it, as as I see it. It represents the infinite glamour. That infinite glamour, that infinite mask. I'm seeing that it says the infinite mask because now I'm looking at that knave of coins that go right behind it. The knave represents opportunity. You are now inside of that space where that infinite infrastructure that you have used as a glamour is now coming to, I'm hearing it's coming to that halt. It's coming to that halting space. It's like, this is the opportunity you've been looking for, and it feels very, very unfamiliar. The opportunity that you've been looking for is always going to be really, really unfamiliar. That goes into the aspects of that Two of Swords. That's illustrated with that Two of Swords. That Two of Swords represents you're not used to the opportunity to really sit with the beauty that is you. We're not just talking about in aspects of physical, we're talking about energetically. You have not really been sitting with the energetics, with the beauty of your energy. The ability for your energy to pull in the things that are being pulled in. You're not used to actually sitting with it and allowing yourself to process that feeling. See, a lot of times for you, when we sit there and then we go into the aspects of that Three of Swords, for you, it's a sense of celebrating. For you, it's that sense of celebrating. You pull in, you're able to pull in so much. You're able to pull in so much. You're able to pull in you're able to pull in whatever the aspect was on your mind. The problem with it is, Here's the issue. You're not used to sitting with the feeling. So the thought becomes the primary and the feeling always becomes some auxiliary. So by the time you get to the point of being able to see what you have to let go, see what has to be let go of, see what has to be dealt with, having that opportunity, you've built up such a, as an aspect, you built up such a suspense. You built up such a suspense with that predisposition. You build up such a suspense with the considerable favor. I can do this. I can do it. Okay, cool. I've done it once before. You're used to doing it over and over and over again. But that's how you get stuck within that little infinite loop of the glamour of it. The feeling, the validation of that feeling that you have inside of that space. It's like, ooh, I get what I want, but why am I not going anywhere? I'm getting what I think I want, but why am I not going anywhere? Why does it always keep me in the space of the aspect of that Knave of Swords? Why does it keep me in this opportune? Every time I have an opportunity to cut away, every time you have an opportunity to cut away, you get stuck in that suspense of, okay, now I'm back in hiding, but my hiding is hermit mode. My hiding is actually hermit mode. My hermit mode is actually sitting and processing. Me processing is allowing this shit to actually come up to the surface. Me allowing this to come to the surface means that I have to sit with it. I don't know how to sit with it. I know how to react to it. You know how to react to it. You know how to move around it. You know how to move around, but you don't know how to sit long enough to actually you don't know how to sit long enough to allow that pulse to actually take you to that point of cycling that momentum inside of that space. So that becomes that two-edged sword. That goes into that 5 of Wands. That 5 of Wands represents that decision. And looking at how the aspects of that infinite loop, you've had this decision multiple times. You being met with the decision multiple times. The problem with the aspects of that decision is that possessiveness. You're champion, you're used to using that possessiveness that you use in order to dissociate. See, the aspect with you using that possessiveness is to be able to dissociate from making the decision. So you make the decision. You make the decision that's on your heart. You make the decision, but you're using it from instead of dissociating. Instead of detachment. See, detachment is where you got to sit with that feeling first. The processing of that feeling. The processing of that rejection. The processing of that fear where I'm hearing the aspects of that death. That sweet, sweet death. What you won't have to let go of. What you are going to have to let go of. You're going to have to let go of that stimulation that you get, or that the stimulation you get from the chase, from the run. Oh my God, I get to be able to run. I can run in this moment. I know exactly where to run to. I know exactly where to dip out to. We are not doing that. Get away. You sit inside of that space with yourself and you're like, oh my God, I can't. Oh my God, I don't know what to do next. And you know exactly what you have to do, but it's sitting in the aspects of that process. It's sitting in that process. It's actually going into that step and sitting like, you know what? I can't keep using my skill set. Remember, we talked about the skill set the entire time. You can't keep using the same skill set that you've been using. That you've made that skill set your marquee. You made that skill set your marquee. You made that skill set the most prestige aspect to the aspects of your value and your worth. The problem with that, using that skill set, won't be able to sit in that opportunity. You have a lot of opportunity. It's the opportunity for you to assess. You're in a state of assessing. You've acknowledged it multiple times. You always get to the point of acknowledgement. Yeah, I need to do this. It's kind of like, yeah, I need to start doing this. Yeah, I need to start eating a little better. Yeah, I need to start sitting down. Yeah, I need to start doing this. You always have the opportunity, but you do not accept, because in your state of acceptance, that disassociation that comes up, you disassociate what's inside of your cup. No, that's not what's in my cup. But what's in your cup is what's in your cup. That's what you keep getting. You keep getting the emotionally distant. You keep getting that back and forth. And that leads into the aspects, once again, with the last card we'll pull, that infinite wish. Because like most, you wish, oh my God, I just need one time for it to be right. It was right one time. It worked one time. Yeah, it worked one time. It might have worked 2 times. It always gave you the result that you needed. It always gave you the result that you wanted. Exactly where it was at. But since you're not used to sitting with the process of that feeling, since you're used to, the best example I can use, since you're used to something always being there to take it on, so to speak, to give you that boost, to give you that pull, to pull you in that direction, you don't know how to say no. See, that no leads to that rejection. That no leads to that fear of abandonment. It leads to that fear of not being good enough. It leads to that aspect of what I've been building all of this for. Why I don't build things. Why I don't stay in a space for longer than a certain period of time. Why every time you go into a space, and I just got told to pull one more card. That's the end of that cycle. Why are you so used to staying tethered to so many things inside of that space? It's because it leads to the aspects of that possessiveness. That possessiveness. You're passively being possessive by being coy, so to speak. You're being coy. You're allowing the other things to lead. Because you know they're not going to lead to anywhere, because you haven't sat with the consistency of yourself of being put in a position of that nature. That's why everything that happens in that environment, whenever it's time for you to step away, it's always easy for you. That's why, as we lead all the way back to that infinite loop, it's always easy for you to break away. But it's not what you're doing while everything's breaking away, is what you do after it. Your biggest thing is sitting, okay, what do I have to do? What is next in the aspects of that breakaway? I know I have to sit down, but what does sitting down look like? What is that process? I'm used to going and coming to that immediate stop and then using that to be my push. You're used to the motion and not having momentum. That's your biggest thing. Your biggest thing is being used to that motion. Your biggest thing, you're used to the motions and not the momentum. It's all right. It's good. It's cool. It's cool. It's cool. Because that momentum is going to hurt. That's the last card. That momentum is going to hurt. See, for a lot of us, we're used to acknowledging, oh, I'm hurt. Oh, I'm hurt. Gratitude. We're used to saying that we're hurt, but we're not used to sitting with why we're hurt. We're not used to sitting with why we're hurt, so we can't sit with the processing that hurt. That's the aspect so now when we think about that predisposition for ourselves, you think about that predisposition inside of your life. Why you keep doing what you're doing, why you keep saying what you keep saying, why you keep acting the way you keep acting, it's because you're stuck in that loop of that predisposition. You cling to the things that we tend to want to cling to the things that are considerably inside of our favor, because as I said when we opened up, it fits that behavior. But when we ask that question to ourselves, what would I be if this happened in my life instead of that? That's processing the behavior. Okay, yes, I did this, and this. And I'm always seeming to do this, and this. That's now we processing that pattern. So now what's going to relate to me is based on my habit. I have a habit that I have to address. First layer, it can be, and yes, we understand, we should come into the understanding. Yes, it can be something from past generations and from something your grandmother did 16 years ago and things of that nature. But the first initial step is for you. Because outside of you, anything that happens outside, anything that's happened in the past or happens in the sense of we think about the future, all of that's based on perception. It's our perspective that allows you to actually sit and be like, okay, cool, I need to start this process. I'm in my purpose. My purpose is for the next couple of days is this. So now when you start thinking about being evenly yoked, because being evenly yoked in your purpose, now you start leading with intention. See, predisposition, the verbiage for predisposition is what you bring to the table. Tell me, what do you have? What are you doing? What do you do for a living? All that byproduct BS. But when you sitting in your purpose forces you to sit with your purpose. Your purpose leads to what your intentions of who you are. And it shows you exactly what you need to be doing. See, predisposition, you try to put that predisposition, it's automatically imposing. You automatically going to impose on somebody else. I'm having so many problems in my life. Or man, I just need a woman that can sit with me and and want to build with me. All of those are aspects of predisposition you're going to impose. Because you're saying what you want based on, but you haven't asked yourself, what of me is that? What of me is that? I'm saying that I'm this good person, but the only way that my good can be validated is by somebody else's bad. So think about what you get evenly yoked with. Of course, everybody that you meet is going to be in dire need of your saving. So you can impose your will on them because you're saving them. And that saving looks like, I did all of these things for you. And I ain't got nothing to show for it. I did this, and this. I do this, and this. I took your bullshit. That's what it sounds like when you impose it. All the energetics is reading is imposing. All your subconscious is reading impose. That's all your subconscious reads it. But when you sitting in the aspects of temperament and you starting to pour into yourself, that pouring into yourself process, and you start setting up those functions, now you come into the aspects of investing. Now okay, cool. I get this investment means that I have a choice. You always have a choice in what you invest in. When you feel you have no choice, that's because you stuck in that predisposition with yourself. When you understand you always have a choice to what you invest in, and the first investment is like, I don't know some shit. I don't know. So I must invest in the process of learning that process for myself. I said it for now this would be the 6th week. I was not confident. So the shit that I did was based on a preset set of terms. Everything from how I kept my hair cut to what I would do. So, of course, when you start exploring yourself, this is where a lot of people get lost at. You start exploring yourself. You're exploring the different fragments of yourself that have been repressed. This is the major key to your internal work. That initial boost, I always say this, the best way I explain it is, because most of us is middle children. Y'all remember back in the day when you got that AOL disc and it gave you a certain amount of hours of internet on your computer at the house for the dial-up? That's what you get. That's that space. You're like, yay, I'm running and I'm whipping and I'm flying through this shit. But you get lost in that because you think that that's you. That's already been, that's pre-remnant, that's preset. So now you keep, now that feeling that you, now that hit that you just got, now you're looking for it again. Because you haven't processed the feeling. So you don't even know that that was already going on inside of you already. See, becoming equally yoked, the process of becoming equally yoked, that's that courting process that I always talk about. It's time to court with yourself. How well do you know you? Are you ready to sit inside of a space to where even when the feeling comes up, I say that this shit, I remember in the beginning of my processes of actually going public with a lot of shit. I remember one of my mentors, they told me, they were like, when you talk to women, they don't listen to you. They're getting off on that feeling of your aura of what you are, of who you are. And I had to sit with that. Because I was like, yeah, they are. I accepted it. Because for me, that was, because remember, every space that you go into learn, you're actually going into, when you're learning, you're also teaching and vice versa. That was my edge. I knew how to use it. I knew how to extract things. Because that same thing happened for when I work with my male clients. And they sitting in that space. And they sitting uncomfortable. And now for men is going to be the confirmation of, the masculine aspect is confirmation. The feminine aspect is affirmation. So as long as I'm affirming, and then I know what to affirm, and I know how to process it, and my resolve, I can always sit inside of that space with a person. Same thing with the aspect when I work with my men clients. Sit there with them. On whatever side of the coin, you can sit there. Like a lot of times when I start sessions, I give you 20 minutes of yell, scream, let it all out for 20 minutes. Go ahead, let that shit out for 20 minutes. Go ahead. I'm going to let you do it. I'm watching your body change. I'm watching your body dip down. I'm watching your body relax. I'm seeing when you get tense, when you say certain words. And I know exactly where to hit you at when I tell you to breathe. I know when you're not present. I know when you're oppressing. I can sit with it. Because I'm open. See, your purpose leaves you in the aspect. Your purpose leaves you in that space of being open. Your purpose leaves you in the space of being vulnerable. But you have created the space in the structure to be able to cycle that energy fully through. Instead of you, the normal, for fellas, for us, the moment that a woman open up for you, what you do? Oh my God, she opened up to me. That means she want me. What you do, fellas, when a woman open up, oh my God, he opened up to me. He did this for me. You automatically open up. Yeah, I'm open to them. Take me. Bitches love enlightenment. I was watching another pod. Bitches love enlightenment. Niggas love enlightenment as well. You feel what I'm saying? But that's that predisposition. When you moving in your purpose, you know how to use it. You ain't always got to like, this is one of the things we get deep into in aspects in the class. You don't always have to jump, like for us as fellas, you don't always have to jump at it in a physical form, because on every single level, every level of intimacy is that sacred energy exchange. But if you haven't been sitting inside of that process, you don't know how to sit with that exchange of energy and actually use it and cycle with it. Because it hurts. It hurts. It's unfamiliar. It's like, oh my God, maybe I can use my skill. No, your skill set don't work. And that's that's a part of that learning process. That's you learning what you're pouring into yourself. That's you learning, like use simple examples. Like I made 2 posts today. That's you being able to learn to sit inside of yourself. That's you being able to sit with yourself and understand every time you looking in the mirror at yourself, you're doing mirror work. You don't have to do mirror work separately. You're already doing mirror work. If you wake up in the AM and you feel like dancing, guess what? That might be your meditation. But understand okay, let me learn the basics first. This is where I'm going to implement my basics. Understanding where your purpose is at. There's a new moon popping right now. There's a new moon popping off right now. New beginning. What are you doing with it? What are you doing with your energy inside of that space? How are you looking at yourself inside of those spaces and learning how to grow and learning how to evolve with yourself? That becomes your key. Your purpose embodies the lessons from what you were, their predisposition, the shit that happened, the shit that led to the lessons that you will learn. Until you embrace these lessons, duality, one side of the coin, you cannot sit within the ever chaotic process that is your purpose. Therefore, you cannot sit inside of that edge. See, I sit inside of my edge. I'm equally in that space. So now when things come into your space, instead of you looking for something, you ain't got to look for shit. It comes to you exactly as it needs to come to you. How you receive it is how you going to move forward with it. Have you built that out yet? Are you comfortable? Can you sit there and say like, yo, that's not my bag. That's not something that I do. Because if not, that's when you get into those spaces of you starting to do energy work. You want to you doing energy work and shit. And now because you're trying to replace your job, so to speak, with energy work and doing energy work, the same way you work at your job is the same way you're trying to work over here in your purpose. Your purpose and your job is separate. It don't work. The same way you working over there don't work over here. That's one thing that I had to learn. From being able to sit with not feeling like I always have to do something. That was one of my biggest shits. I'll talk about that in a couple of lectures. Being able to sit, but like, you know what? I've done everything I needed to do today. For the rest of the day, I shall now relax. I've done everything that I needed to do. Everything's in motion. The momentum is there. Allow it to play out. Instead of being reactive, oh my God, this is this and this is this and this is this. Now I can sit with that. But again, as I said before, if you missed week 1, it's okay. It is all right if you missed week 1. It is okay. We are going to do a recap. Tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. 8:15 Eastern Standard Time to whenever. Chakra and Shadow. If you're interested in having a sit down in the class, hit me in the inbox. We get everything situated, give you the pricing and all that good shit. For all other services from sessions, that big boy consultations. I just reactivated the cut the cord reading. All my other services. You hit me in the inbox, or you can hit me on the website. Because ultimately, I desire you to be the fucking best. I'm here to aid, not save. There's nothing that I want from you. But I have the ultimate desire to see you become the fucking best. Because you wouldn't be present in this space if that was not the precursor to you moving forward. Feel what I'm saying? What are you yoked to? What are you evenly yoked to? Predestination or your purpose? Are you done? Are you ready for consistency? Because it hurt like a motherfucker. Or are you ready for that considerable favor? Still stuck in considerable favor? You still like being tolerated? Or you want that temperament? You ready to step into temperament? You ready to invest or you still want to impose? That's your choice. Made mine. That's why I'm here. But I'm about to calm myself down. Again, you interested in the class? Hit me in the inbox. Services? Hit me in the inbox. Let's set up some time. Let's set your time up. Let's get you in there. Because the only thing you can do from this point is start. The only thing you can do from this point is start. And that's on you. I love you. We love us. I'll show you.